On this episode of Who Done, curious, how much do you actually know about like Epstein or the case?
How did they just kind of happen to come across like a newfound video that's like what 30 years old or however old it is?
So
it's a Victoria's Secret guy.
Victoria's Secret guy. He's the Victoria's Secret shocker, right? The guy that's making lingerie for teenagers is involved in some weird stuff with Jeffrey Epstein.
The thing I was still trying to figure out is like how he made all his money and stuff, right? But eventually.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Who Done podcast. My name is Damian Galvan, and the episode that you're about to watch is a conversation that I had with Representative Gil Cisneros of California's 31st District, talking about the Epstein case and everything going on, whether that's in Congress, outside of Congress, just giving him a debrief. It was really interesting to me to see that our elected officials don't always have this privileged information that we think that they do. And exploring the subject matter with him felt very close to exploring the subject matter with literally any other person. So I'm really excited to share this conversation, and I hope that all of you enjoy it as well.
We want to know about the Epstein files, right?
Yeah.
We want them to kind of go. We want them to kind of bring out, the information as to like what happened, right? How did, all of a sudden it's like, oh, nothing to see here.
Yeah.
And so, we keep putting amendments in there, right? Rep McGovern, who's the ranking member on rules, keeps submitting amendments to kind of get that and to have that happen. And I think they're at the point now where Republicans are like, yeah, what happened to the files? We want to see that too.
Yeah. I heard Tom Massey's trying to put, I think it's Tom Massey and Ro Khanna that are trying to put something on the floor right now.
They were doing a bipartisan amendment that they kind of did a little while ago. There's a discharge petition out there that if you can get 218 signatures, then yes, they can be brought to the floor without having to go through rules or anything. And I think they're worried about in some of the packages that they wanted to do or the things they wanted to bring forth to get voted on this week, that some of the Republicans on the Rules Committee would support any potential Epstein,
And that's the concern, that they just don't want Republicans to either have to make that decision, like to get their name out there, because it would reveal who's for it and who's against it.
Donald Trump does not want that to come forward.
Yes, shocker.
So Mike Johnson's trying to appease him. And the hope is the reason why we're going home early, because we did like a couple like suspension kind of like non-important kind of bills that got today. I think we're going to do like one or two more today. They have like, it's bipartisan support. And so he's sending everybody home today, a day early, with the hope that when we come back in September, everybody will forgot about Epstein and they can go on.
Wow. So he's taking advantage of this break to try to let the media cycle kind of pass it by,
Right.
as opposed to, keeping this pressure on our elected officials to actually get them to do what Trump said they were going to do, which is release the Epstein files.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how much do you actually know about like Epstein or the case? Obviously, you're not going to have like privileged information because of your position, but like beforehand, how much did you know about this?
I think just the same as everybody else, what was in there. I think there was a documentary on one of the streaming things. I think I watched one of the episodes. I didn't watch them both. I think it was a two-parter. I just, he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Who got convicted for trafficking women on a state case, not a federal case in New York. That, for the thing I was still trying to figure out is like how he made all his money and stuff, right? But eventually, I think what it was, he had some rich guy that kind of, he oversaw his finances or something and just kind of made all his money from
Les Wexner.
Yeah.
Les Wexner, he was I was also extremely
Victoria's
interested.
Secret
Victoria's
guy.
Secret
Yeah.
guy. He's the
Yeah.
Victoria's Secret shocker, right? The guy that's making lingerie for teenagers is involved in some weird stuff with Jeffrey Epstein. But I got super interested in this entire case, obviously, because of what's going on right now. And the same questions, a lot of people don't really know how he got his money or how he came to prominence and whatnot. So I was looking into the case itself and the connections, the intricacy of it is just so interesting. As a starting point here, Douglas Barr, he was the headmaster for a school in New York called the Dalton School. And Jeffrey Epstein, this is his first job given to him by Douglas Barr. He is hired to be a math teacher with no with no college education or with like no credentials to be a math teacher at this at one of the best private schools in New York. Douglas Barr is also, you know, if the last name sounds familiar, William Barr's father, who becomes Attorney General under the Trump administration. And as we're like researching for this, all of these different connections end up coming out. The Les Wexner situation is also super interesting because he starts managing, you know, he starts this group. He works for a major bank, then he starts his own firm, and the whole case or the whole fact surrounding it is that he's doing like offshore banking, and that he's trying to get people their money to you know stretch a little bit further, if you will. And he starts his own group called the Epstein Co. And this firm only accepts billionaires. That's how he starts. He says, we only accept billionaires. And he brings on Les Wexner as his first client. And within 3 years, so he starts in 1988. Within 3 years, Les Wexner hands him over power of attorney and control of like all of his portfolio. And this is where, you know, with the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, all of those properties that we know, the Manhattan townhouse, if you're familiar with that, those were all Wexner properties. So it's super interesting to see how deep this goes. And this starts the relationship that he ends up having in the 1990s and in the 2000s with Donald Trump. It's I mean, like, how much of this do you think is like the public should know? There's obviously a lot here. Some of it, you know, ties into intelligence agencies, whether that's the Mossad or CIA or MI6 in the UK. There's connections there. The major accusation and the point where I think it gets interesting for me is that, you know, a lot of people try to float these conspiracies around about, you know, what Epstein was doing and why he was doing it. But he gets a lot of his early start with doing the offshore banking and stuff. And allegedly, the reason why he's an asset for these different organizations is because they need individuals to, like, essentially, like, the CIA can't go and start like buy a business, you know, in some other country and open up a storefront or, you know, have their names attached to things. So they have to have these people. And then when there's these arms dealing going on in the 1980s, they use individuals like this. Do you know anything about that?
No. I mean, I think I've never really kind of dove that deep into this, right? Other than that he was a bad dude who did bad things and, you know, and did a lot of favors for people and somehow was like a very persuasive guy or something like that, or was able to kind of get into people's things where they, you know, gain their trust. You know, they gained Jeffrey Epstein's trust, and he provided them with services, right?
Yeah,
you know?
It seems like.
So it's now what all those we do know some, right? Or involved with a young woman, but you know, who knows what else he was doing for him as well, right? I don't know anything about any CIA ties or anything like that.
Yeah. I think the unfortunate thing about a case like this is there's so much unknown that it opens the door to a lot of conspiracies. So like when we were researching this, you know, the sources that we used were New York Times, you know, Washington Post, all credible sources. But obviously, as you get deeper into deeper parts of the internet, more and more conspiracies about how he was tied in all of this end up coming to the forefront. But I think just what we do know, like what you're saying, that he's a bad guy, that he did these things, you know, it wasn't just young girls. Some of these accusations are girls as young as 6 years old. I mean, these are children, like 13 years old. I have a sister who's, you know, 10 years old, 11 years old. This is disgusting things to even be imagining. And, you know, Donald Trump is trying to separate himself from this. And it just seems so obviously like breaking down the fourth wall. Obviously, he's trying to do like the politics side of it and hiding it up. And, oh, I didn't really know him. I've never drawn a picture in my life, this, that, the other. But I mean, to me at least, it seems very obvious that he was not only well acquainted with Jeffrey Epstein, but had a very close personal relationship with him for a considerable amount of time.
No, I think that's pretty obvious from what we've seen, right? I mean, there seems to be plenty of photos and video out there.
Did you see the CNN stuff that came out yesterday?
I did kind of see some of that where they were like at a fashion show or something. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, there was. I think it was two. It was he threw a Victoria's Secret fashion show.
Yeah.
Where only him and Epstein, I think, were there, and then he invited him to his 1993 wedding with Marla Maples, I believe.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And those were the pictures that apparently were uncovered by CNN.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that these like companies, CNN, the Wall Street Journal, I think is the one that did the doodle reporting. Do you think that they should have like been on this a little bit earlier? You know, like in the run up to him running the first time. Obviously, we got the Access Hollywood tapes and all of that, but like it seems like there's a lot here, and it's not just for Donald Trump. There's a lot of people that were involved in this, a lot of very powerful people.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the media's response right now? And do you think like they should have done anything earlier in terms of like investigative journalism?
I mean, I don't know. You never know, like what's out there. I guess, right? How did they just kind of happen to come across like a newfound video that's like what 30 years old or however old it is?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the explanation. Right? It could have been somebody who was like, oh, let's go into the archives and just kind of look and oh my God, look what I just found.
Yeah.
Thought like, well, let's go to wedding number 2. Right. And kind of see what we see. And I don't know, maybe that was it. But, again, right. I think the media, and this is kind of, we talked about other times, right. It's the media is going to follow what's ever hot. Right. And they're going to do what's in a way, whatever's the big story of the time. Right. So this kind of happens to be it right now. So now they're like probably going into all their archives and see and looking. Well, where else could they have been together? Where else maybe they have kind of come across paths where there's like pictures and, because neither one of them was really one to shy away from the media either,
No.
right? Kind of, Donald Trump was like, you ever watch Ollie G? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah, I know Ollie G. Yes.
You saw that, like, he ended up on the Ollie G show.
I think I do. I do remember the clip that you're talking about. I remember Ollie G from the David Beckham, Victoria Beckham interview.
But Ollie G was Sacha Baron Cohen is this character that he played. Ollie G was the character. And I just remember he used to always say "Booyakasha," and he made a horrible movie as that character. But he had a show on HBO, which was really funny, and he would always somehow get all these celebrity guests. Like on his show, I'm like, well, do you not know who this is? Or why would you even kind of like, even ask, like, who is this guy? But it was always just the chance they said people would go on the show just to do an interview or whatever, or to get on there, to be on TV.
Sure.
So back to my point, right? Donald Trump, media horror.
Yeah.
So whatever he could do to get on TV, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll be on that show. I don't care who's interviewing me. Oh, you want to interview me about the USFL? But always having this mindset that somehow it's all going to be good, right? Yeah. A guy's doing a show on how, the USFL, right? A football league there in the 80s that fell apart.
Yeah.
And you were a driving force in that. Why would you think he's going to ask you only stuff about how great it was and how you participated, and not ask you anything about like the impact or what you had to do in the league going defunct?
Yeah.
That's just this mentality. And I'm sure he's like the same thing with these Epstein files, was that knowing what he's did, but he just has this mentality that somehow, oh no, I'm not going to be in that. Or I'm like, all right, why would I be in there?
It's called narcissism. I think that's the mentality.
Of course it is.
And, on him being a media whore, one of the things that's coming to bite him in the ass is how much he did media about Jeffrey Epstein at the time.
Yeah.
I think that there's a misconception with the difference between like powerful people and the super elite.
Mm-hmm.
The super elite is a very small group of people.
Yeah.
When Epstein starts Epstein Co. And he only offers it to billionaires, there's only 140 billionaires in the entire world at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very small group of people who are being connected by Jeffrey Epstein. And I think that it's so unbelievable to imagine that these people didn't know at least some idea of what was going on.
You know, all he needed was one, right? And really, all he had was one. I don't think he had like a long client list of like people.
He did, well, it ends up extending, and it gets really interesting, and it's kind of convoluted, and that's why people want the Epstein files, because a lot of those financial transactions we don't really know. We know about Les Wexner because he was very public about it, and those are the houses that got transferred and whatnot. But there are other billionaires that were, you know, getting financial advice from Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's I don't think he had 140. I don't think it was a bunch of people kind of running there to kind of, oh yeah, we got to get with this guy or this guy, because I don't know, like you said, what training or what experience did he have to even provide that advice, right? Other than kind of being able to, you know, sell snake oil, right? It's what he was doing. I mean, look, there's a long history of people, I think, who've kind of been able to do that, right? There was another, God, I can't even think of this one now, but people who've been, for whatever reason, been persuasive, you know, could convince people that they were doing things. You know, that's how cults get started, right?
Yes, yeah.
You know, people kind of like hear the story and it's like, oh my God, it's like amazing. It's like, oh, I need to do this, or this person's so enlightened.
Yes.
And, you know, but that's basically what it was, except he didn't, you know, he didn't want a cult. He just kind of wanted to live the good life.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was able to persuade people, I think, into that, to kind of being on there, and offered them, like I said, services that were, you know, some people wanted.
Yeah.
Right?
I think an interesting connection that he has, talking about people that misconceive, is Stephen Hoffenberg. Are you familiar with Stephen Hoffenberg? He ran like a Ponzi scheme around, you know, in the early 2000s. But a funny story that I learned while I was investigating this is Stephen Hoffenberg obviously is in prison for the Ponzi scheme that he ran. But he was trying to con Epstein.
Yeah.
And Epstein actually ends up conning him out of $100 million.
Wow.
So these are, like you're saying, this is a group of people that are obviously also, you know, self-interested in trying to, you know, live the good life, regardless of what that ends up meaning. I'm, you know, going back to the point of like, it's hard to imagine that these people just didn't know what was going on. And Donald Trump's inability to know when to shut the hell up, for lack of, you know, a better phrase. He says this to New York Magazine in 2002. Quote, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life."
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, but I mean, it tells you exactly why Trump like hung out with him, right?
Yeah.
And again, he's never really had a filter, you know, to kind of know when to shut the fuck up. He just kind of says something that comes to his mind without even thinking like, oh, well, what are the consequences of this kind of saying, you know, me saying what this is, right? And to him, it's like, oh, it's like in a way, almost he saw it like as a badge of honor, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, he's a great guy. He likes him young. He likes him young.
Do you think that
it's beautiful?
It's like a power trip where it's like, like I'm gonna hint at like we're doing these bad things. Because another quote from actually Epstein's brother, I didn't even know Epstein had a brother, but Epstein's brother yesterday or 2 nights ago went on Aaron Burnett's CNN show with Aaron Burnett, and he was talking about Trump's relationship with Epstein.
Yeah.
And he recounts this very particular story where, you know, Jeffrey had told his brother that, you know, Trump likes sleeping with married women, and he has a proclivity for sleeping with married women. And one day he asked Donald Trump, you know, why do you sleep with so many married women? And he goes, because it's so bad. And he gets Trump to repeat this joke one time when his brother's on the plane, so that he can hear it and they can laugh about it, you know, together. Going back to my question, do you think that it is a component of like, I can get away with it? I'm untouchable. I'm unstoppable.
Yeah.
I'm a god. I'm a cult leader.
I think it's the narcissism that's there. Like, no, I'm no psychiatrist. I'm no psychologist. I'm not, you know, analyzing, but from my own opinion, I think, yes, it's this thing about like, I can get any woman I want, married or not. You know, look at me. I'm Donald Trump. You know, handsome in his own eyes, you know, but, you know, that's kind of like, I think what it is, right? It's there. It's like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, or whatever.
Yeah. And what do you think that just comes from his like upbringing and just kind of everything being handed to him and him not having to really, the biggest struggle that he had was getting that loan of $1 million from his father. Or do you think it's something deeper? Is it like, is he covering for some insecurities? Like, again, you're not a psychologist, but just breaking your mind behind it. Like,
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's yeah, I don't know why he has that attitude or what it is or anything like that as to why it's, you know, you'd have to talk to a professional about that one. Yeah.
And I don't even know if they'd be able to answer it, to be completely honest. Might need like a whole board of people to evaluate what's really going on with this man. Going back to the media and kind of when we start to figure out exactly what, again, and this is according to public information. This is actually a Vanity Fair journalist, Vicky Ward. Are you familiar with this coverage? So this is like the first time that he gets actually like in trouble. They figure out that he's a suspicious guy. And Vicky Ward, she ends up, starting to write this story about the underage sex trafficking, the ties to his intelligence agencies, and she gets testimony from Stephen Hoffenberg. So going back to Stephen Hoffenberg, another component of it is not only does he or not only does Epstein con him out of $100 million, he then goes to the feds and testifies against him to get him in prison. He's one of the main witnesses that testifies against him. So Stephen Hoffenberg returns the favor by talking to Vicky Ward, this journalist. And long story short, Epstein gets, notice that this story is going to come out, and he's, makes, his calls. He reaches out to the editor. And the editor, Graydon Carter, he ends up saying that he removes a lot of this information from the article. The final article ends up being titled "The Talented Mr. Epstein," and it removes all the references to the underage girls, the intelligence agencies. It kind of just talks about how he's the shadowy figure in these circles. Yeah. And he says that the reason that he got it removed was because a dead cat and a bullet were left outside of his apartment. Mm-hmm. That's like again, this is the stuff that movies, highlight. Like it's wild. It's crazy how and this isn't like, again, the Reddit conspiratory, like, some guy that dwells in his basement and, lives 14 hours a day, doesn't go outside. Mm-hmm. These are journalists. These are accredited people who are saying like this is stuff that happened to me as I was trying to report on it. So I feel like it tells you that there's more in these Epstein files than we're even being led on to believe.
Oh, we know, like, the whole grand jury thing isn't even the beginning, right? There is so much more that's out there that the FBI collected, that is available for them to release and to get out there. But they, again, excuse me, they're just trying to appease their base, right, and trying to fool them. And be like, oh, we're gonna, if we can get the what is it, the general, what is it they're trying to do right now?
They're trying to get, I mean, they're doing a bunch of different things to try to cover up the Epstein story.
No, like what are they're right now, the Attorney General is trying to get the guy, I can't even think of what it's called right now. I'm losing my mind.
The testimony, grand jury testimony?
The grand jury testimony. I don't know why I couldn't think of grand jury. But they're trying to get the grand jury testimony kind of like to be released. But like, I was listening to like a thing the other day or reading this article. It's like that isn't going to show anything. Yeah. Because you just kind of are showing the grand jury the basic minimum just so you can try and get the thing. The grand jury just decides whether they're going to go to trial or not. Mm-hmm. They're not there to decide the whole case.
It's just a preponderance of the evidence. You just have to, it's 50+1 in a grand jury.
So doing that and releasing the files, they can do anything.
Nope.
And then now they heard, who is it? Republicans subpoenaed Maxwell to try and like,
they're trying to.
They're going to get out of prison, to come and testify in front of the one of the committees there, or the House Oversight Committee. Yeah.
Do you think that will actually happen?
No, I don't know. I don't think it'll happen. I don't know if there's even ever a precedent for somebody coming from jail. I mean, what's she going to be there in handcuffs and everything? Like when they're in an orange jumpsuit? Yeah. When they're doing this?
The most credible testimony of all time.
Yeah. And then it's like, but now they're like, oh, well, now it's like the Department of Justice wants to talk to her. So, okay, what deal are they going to make with her in order to kind of deny all this stuff?
Also, what do you mean you want to talk to her? You didn't talk to her before? Like when you were doing this whole investigation into this guy that, ran into...
But even though, right, how is that going to shut anybody up?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we just need this to go away. Like nothing can happen. This is Democratic, hoopla that's kind of being drawn up. And, let's get back to the real thing. Like Hillary Clinton and her, her server, Obama. And, now they're just trying to say Obama, like, worked with the Russians to rig the election or somehow, which is totally crazy, right? Because if that actually happened, Trump never would have won.
Yeah, right. You rigged the election so that Trump would win.
Yeah, but so what's going to happen? I mean, of course, she's not going to come out and say like, "Well, get me out of prison."
Yeah.
So then, miraculously, she's going to be released from prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also the report
I would say I wouldn't trust them. They're like, hey, come and do this, and then we'll let you out.
Yes.
You think they're going to let her out?
The report was, and I cannot remember the source off the top of my head, but when she was in prison after, I think she was arrested in 2019, shortly after Epstein was arrested, she starts saying that if Donald Trump gets elected, she's going to get pardoned. Mm. And she's been saying this to her inmates for a while now. So, also, like, think the quid pro quo, spells itself out.
Yeah.
I'm in prison. The only guy that can get me out of prison is under hot water, and I can say something that helps both of us. And I can say
something that, like, oh, no, he was never involved. We never saw him. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. But, she's going to deny her innocence too, right? Because there wasn't like... I don't think she pled guilty to any of this, did she? Or I don't even remember.
I don't think she pled guilty, but there's such an insurmountable amount of evidence again with all of these things.
It doesn't mean that it was all denial.
Yeah.
This never happened. We never did that. I don't know what you're talking about. He was just my friend.
Time for a quick message from our sponsors. This episode of Who Dem is brought to you by Elect Dems Now. We all know that podcasts are the future. They give us the chance to connect with our elected officials like never before. That's why Elect Dems Now is committed to helping voters engage with the people who represent us. Supporting organizations that bring us closer to our elected officials is crucial to advancing and advocating for the change we want to see. Whether it's $5 or $50, every donation to Elect Dems Now helps shape our future and ensures a country we can all be proud of. Your support sends a clear message to candidates and elected officials. Connecting with you means connecting with America. To contribute and make a difference, visit electdemsnow.org today. Your donation helps build a world where we are all connected. Paid for by Elect Dems Now, electdemsnow.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. I was also interested in, so this Vanity Fair article ends up coming out shortly after he gets those state charges that you're talking about. So long story short, this dad ends up figuring out that his daughter went to Epstein house and, obviously terrible things happen. He presses charges, sends them to, Palm Beach. Palm Beach raids the house, finds sex toys, cameras, and incriminating notes that Jeffrey Epstein had wrote. They go, this is way above our pay grade. Send it to the FBI. During this time, Epstein leaves the country. And the FBI ends up giving him a no prosecution agreement. Are you familiar with this part of what ends up happening? The sweetheart deal, as it's referred to.
Yeah, I know he got a sweetheart deal, yeah.
So the details of the sweetheart deal is that he agreed to plead guilty to the single state charge, which was solicitation of prostitution with a minor. There was no federal charges filed.
Yeah.
Ghislaine, Maxwell, and other co-conspirators were granted immunity. And he was sentenced to 18 months in Palm County Jail.
Oh, yeah, we get to go home every day.
Yeah. Allowed work release 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and he left jail in a chauffeur-driven car and allegedly continued trafficking activities while he was being released. The interesting part of this, and where this comes to bite them in the ass, is the victims' rights bill that ends up passing in the 90s. They don't inform any of his victims that this no prosecution agreement has been reached.
Yeah.
So in 2018, a judge says, well, you had to inform everyone. And that's eventually what leads to the deal being essentially overturned. But an interesting component of this is Acosta. He was Secretary of Labor under Trump, but he was the one that does this sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
And he was on track to become attorney general, but it ends up coming out that he did the sweetheart deal. And so William Barr ends up becoming attorney general, who, as we said earlier, already has some connection to Epstein and Donald Trump. And I think Pam Bondi was also involved in this case as well, the sweetheart deal. So there's like I feel like you've watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I'm assuming, where one of the characters at the clipboard drawing all the strings. And it just feels even insane to say out loud that this is something that's happening, because it is at the very least a conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about the theories part behind it, but there's certainly a conspiracy going on here.
Well, they're hiding some stuff. Somebody's hiding something, We think we know what it is, but, we'll see. And it should be. And again, right, this is another promise that he made, another promise never kept.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. And he's deflecting with the Obama stuff.
Oh, God.
And he released the MLK files. I don't know if you saw that 200. And then MLK's daughter ends up tweeting, now release the Epstein files.
Yeah. Well, that's the crazy thing, right? But I think that was all pretty well known, right? That's kind of already come out, like Martin Luther King, had some extramarital stuff, but it is the crazy thing, right? And this is what I worry about, like the next 6 weeks or 5 weeks that we're in recess, is he needs to find a way to deflect, right? How do you, it's like even Johnson kind of doesn't cover it very well. Oh, we got to give him more time. Give him more time. So more time to find what the next thing is that will kind of draw the media away from this.
Yeah, he needs to feed the base.
Take them to another story, right? And so is there going to be another immigration issue? Is there going to be something else? Or who knows, right? But I don't know. Something's coming.
Do you think this leads somewhere? Obviously, like, we've used the term. I've refrained from, calling it a cult in the past, but not to get into the psychology of it. Freud actually does very interesting, writing on the psychology of fascism and cults and whatnot, and cults of personality. Very clearly, I think, especially with the online portion of what's been going on, you see that people they're starting to break away from Trump, and they're starting to push back on him, even some of his deepest supporters. Do you think that the American people at the end of the day end up getting something from this, or do you think that Trump's going to be, able to deflect and get away like he has in the past?
I think he will try and hide it as much as he can. I think he wants to deflect because he does not want, the real story to kind of come out. But I don't think. I mean, there's. I don't know if he's going to be able to give the base what they want, right? Because they want to see the Epstein files, but he doesn't want the Epstein files to come out because his name's probably in there somewhere. It has to be.
Do you think that right now there's a chance? I heard, we'll end on this, but I heard Jasmine Crockett say that, maybe they're doing the cover up now, and they're buying this extra time to maybe hide some of those. The report came out that the FBI was told to flag any mention of Donald Trump within the Epstein file a couple months ago.
Well, I mean, I think the fact that they released that message like on a Sunday, like on the weekend, that, we looked at the files and there's nothing, no files. There is no Epstein file. There is no black book. I mean, just they've been trying to bury it since the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the nutso thing too, right, is that how could you not know that you would not be mentioned in this thing at all, right? Yeah. But yet he was feeding the base, right, with this. Oh, we're going to release the Epstein files. We're going to release the JFK. We're going to release, all this other stuff that's out there.
And he was using it to feed other conspiracies, like with Bill Clinton. He was saying, oh, the Jeffrey Epstein thing is going to come back to bite Bill Clinton in the ass. Meanwhile, he's in the same exact situation. We mentioned the dinner. He's there with Prince Andrews and Bill Clinton. The third one there is Trump.
Yeah.
It's a wild situation. I know you have to get to a vote here soon. So I'll ask this final question. What would you, if you could, reveal the Epstein case, what would you want out of it? When someone says the Epstein files and we want the Epstein files, obviously there's like many components to it. There's the FBI's 301s, like their interviews with individuals, the financial records. Do you say all of it should go out and you let the American people decide, or is there some nuance there that we should be aware of?
I think it should all be out there, right? Let's see everything. And I think, not just like the little black book, but was he working with the CIA? Was he doing stuff like the thing again? How was he? The thing I still can't figure out is how how he made so much money.
Yeah.
Right. And even what was that? Was it actually his money, or was it all like you said? He was just kind of using other people's money and kind of using their buying. He had power of attorney to go and buy these things and using it for himself.
Yes.
But somebody else's name was on the deed.
Yeah.
I think all that, right? It kind of needs to be known, right? Was he working with the government? How did he get? There was another thing I saw too, like on the news about how when his house first got raided.
Yes.
All the computers were, somehow missing all their hard drives.
Ridiculous.
He got tipped off.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen? Like who was tipping him off? Like, was he paying people off? What? I think all that needs to come out.
Yeah, and I think especially because it makes way to other harmful conspiracies, and I think you start involving people that maybe weren't involved, or you start, saying things that aren't necessarily true about certain governments' involvements, or things that should be known about, government's involvements.
Yeah.
And I think that it just leaves so much suspense, and I feel like again, like some of these reporting, this is just disgusting stuff.
Yeah.
It's
and look, whatever they find out, and it's not. I don't think it'll be good, but if something kind of goes there and it clears his name, then hey, that's it, right? Like, but I think we need to know. Yeah, and the American people want to know.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I have this thing. They used to have this. Again, we talked about my love for movies and everything like that. So I used to watch a show called The Actors Studio, where this acting coach who kind of ran the Actors Studio, and was a professor at the New School drama, or whatever drama department, the dean of it, would do these these show all these favorite actors. They talk about their movies, their career, how they got into it, what they do, like what do you see like when you do that. They would take actually questions from students, but he would always ask at the end, whoever was on the show, like 3 questions. And one of the questions was always like, like when you go to heaven, what do you hope they say to you? Right. Because I used to think about that, and I was like, what do I hope they say? Right. And I always said, like, I hope they tell me, here you will find the answer to all your questions.
Mm.
Some of them we just may not know there, right? Till we get to heaven's gates and St. Peter's there to greet us. And I was like, hopefully he'll say, like, here, all your questions will be answered.
Yeah, absolutely. For now, we have to rely on Donald Trump answering some of our questions. So it doesn't seem like we'll have too much hope. But
and you can't rely on a liar, right? To kind of go and to hear that and expect to all of a sudden we're going to start hearing the truth from him. I mean, the one thing we always know, right? He's gonna protect his number one first, right?
Yeah.
He's the most important person, and he's always going to cover up from him. It's always deny.
Yep.
Like, oh, I don't, everything. Like somebody they tried to. I've never met that person. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's like somehow he was never good friends with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, no, and I mean, again, it's Epstein's brother that's saying these things.
Yeah.
These are reporters. This isn't like some, again, basement dweller on Twitter that's like, oh, I have a picture of Donald Trump with Jeffrey. It's like this is B-roll from ABC.
Yeah.
These are letters that he wrote to Jeffrey Epstein that are being reported by Wall Street Journal, who's owned by Rupert Murdoch, who is interested in Donald Trump being president.
Yeah.
But with that being said, again, do know that you have to get to a vote.
Thank you.
So I'll let you go now.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're going to be on recess for a while, so I think we'll be doing this virtually here and there whenever we can do it. But
yeah, absolutely.
We'll see you then.
Absolutely. Yeah,
All
and
right.
if you figure out anything about this Epstein case, Who Done will break the news first.
Right. When I get insight, I'll let you know.
Yeah.